Hey everybody, it's Professor Diffley again, History 100, Chapter 6. This is Lecture Video 3, the Roman Empire. So, alright, what we're going to do next section here is notable Roman emperors, both the famous and the infamous. We're not going to go deep dive into any one of them particularly. You'll see there's a little bit more info on some of the first four after Augustus, some later, Valerian, and others, these guys are important or worth, mentioning is what they do. So, let's take a look at this. So, we got the legacy of Augustus. Again, we've seen this map before, how far they're going to spread. This is the line after Augustus becomes the Julio-Claudian dynasty, after Julius Caesar, and through Claudius, and then on. They're all going to be related. These are the first four emperors five emperors if you include Augustus, six if you include Caesar, but this is the first emperors. This is called the era is called the Pax Romana. It's called the Pax Romana. It means Roman peace. Now that doesn't mean Rome's not at war, as you're going to see. Well, as you can see from the map, there's wars as they expand their borders. Pax Romana here refers to the lack of civil war, and that's, this is Rome growing to its height. Pax Romana is a lack of civil war. It's when it's growing incredibly powerful. In the U.S., again, they use this term today. You can say the U.S. since the end of the Civil War is in a Pax Americana. They had the Pax Britannia for the British Empire, that sort of thing. And there's more of this in the book. It's really a flowering of Roman culture, their golden age of their literature. That's also part of why it's the Pax Romana. They expand the empire. You can see the maps there. This shows you a couple things, this map. Trade routes, overland and by sea, what was grown in major areas throughout the empire. You can see where they get their slaves from North Africa, but especially over here in the Balkans and the Slavic lands, hence Slavs. You can also see all these different, what they call the barbarian tribes. They'll become important next chapter, chapter 7. But you can see that. But you can see the wine growing areas, all the major products, things like that. So the Julio-Claudian emperors, we got Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. Tiberius was the first of the to take over. He sets a very important standard. He buys off the loyalty of the empire after Augustus dies. He buys off the loyalty of the Praetorian Guard and the. And so remember, as an earlier slide, the key to rule here is, and this is in the notes in another slide. Key to rule: take care of the empire, empire's soldiers, the Praetorian Guard and the army. Then you get Caligula. Tiberius was a good ruler. No problems in his reign. Then you get Caligula, who was you're going to see Caligula and Nero. Kind of madmen in some ways. Caligula, it's not his real name. It actually means little boots. He was accompanied his father, who was a great general. And these are, again, all related to Augustus. Great general. It was Caligula's father, so little boots because he dressed like a soldier. He was on the front with them. He seemed like, he had the respect of the army, all that. It seemed like he was going to be excellent soldier. Leader. It turns out he's kind of a madman. Really nasty things, using against other people, using the power of the office to enrich themselves and go after others. You could see more on that. Then you get Claudius, who actually is not supposed to be emperor. Claudius, the interesting thing with him is, Caligula had killed a bunch of his own family and, used to pick on Claudius, his uncle, all the time. Claudius, what it seems like he had, his face was pockmarked. He had some other what seemed like maybe physical disabilities, a stutter. A lot of that went away, interestingly, once Caligula was dead, so maybe he was just hiding himself. But Claudius buys off the emperor, the emperor's guards, the Praetorian Guards, the army. He actually expands the empire the furthest, too. He turns out to be an excellent leader. Invades and starts an invasion and holding of England and the British Isles. And you can see more, he reforms the bureaucracy. Really just someone who was never supposed to be a leader. Did not seem like he was going to be good, but does. And then you get Nero. Nero here is a terrible, terrible person, is by all accounts. He probably had some mental health issues, is what it seems like. There's videos on him and more. Again, there's websites on these guys, so really take a look at that. There's information and notes. He had a penchant for murder. Murders a priest just because he thinks it's funny. Murders his own mother, all sorts of things. Lots and lots of rumors about him, from making his horse consul to he's supposed to, it suggested that he incest with his 3 sisters. It's hard to tell what is true because of obviously bias. The most important thing or infamous thing about him is he's supposed to have fiddled while Rome burned. There was a major fire in Rome. He thought himself a musician. And, mysteriously, so to speak, the area that became burned down became the site of his new palace. This giant palace with this giant man-made lake in it, his own fishing pond, his own sort of koi pond, if you will. Later we're going to see that is gone. Once he's gone, the Flavian emperors, the family that takes over next, destroys it and builds the Colosseum, the famous Colosseum, to sort of get rid of Nero's image there. And, both Caligula and Nero taken out by the Praetorian Guard, and so again, showing their power there. Next group, the Flavian dynasty here. Again, you see the notes, they're the ones that take over after the Civil War, and again, that's, it becomes about who's got the biggest army to lead. But they wanted this to continue afterwards. Again, a lot of this on the websites there. They're going to build the Colosseum, the Flavian Amphitheater. Over time, then you have some, middling emperors, but then what you get is the 5 good emperors, this height of the Augustan system of the Principate. You got Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antonius Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. And again, they all were able to adopt a worthy successor, and that's really important here. Again, see the websites. You can see in the notes here, what they accomplished there. Trajan is important, especially because he's the first non-Italian, non-Latin to become emperor. He's not born in Italy. Hadrian is going to extend the empire to its furthest extent. They have a Hadrian's Wall in the north of England. It's the furthest the empire had gone there. And it really is. What's going to happen after this is crisis and change is going to really dominate the rest of Roman history. In some ways, it's on a decline, a slow decline from this point on. This is Hadrian's Wall in England today, the remnants of it. And you can see the Roman Empire to its greatest extent here. Hadrian's Wall, you can see up the top there. Again, they try to take over these areas past the Rhine and the Danube, but they're never really able to conquer there. But this is a massive, massive empire that the Romans build here. Part of Roman taking over is Romanization. You've probably heard this through Americanization. It's trying to encourage assimilation right here to Roman culture, language, and laws. Wherever Rome went, it tried to spread these things. And local elites were encouraged to adopt these, Roman ways in order to gain access to political power, to move up. It's like, when anybody goes to a new country, here it's different though, but right, this is the Romans conquering other places. Usually helps to fit the local culture and customs. So, one partly just fit in, but again, especially with the Romans, to move up in the system, to learn Latin, to dress like them, right? The old saying was, what do you do when you're in Rome? You do as the Romans do, right? You just go along with it, sort of thing. Local gods, the Romans accepted outside gods, and so they would adopt them into their pantheon. Military service, really path to Romanization and Roman citizenship for people from areas they conquered and beyond. Romanization, you learned how to be a Roman. They spoke in Latin. I believe there's a video on this, A Day in the Life of a Roman Soldier, and it talks about that. But after you served your years, 25 years here in this case, you became a citizen with everything that came with it. The U.S. until recently has had this as well, where, immigrants were, who serve in the military and serve, get honorably discharged in the end, can get fast-tracked to citizenship. The idea is that you're willing to fight for the country, shed blood for it, your own, that you should be rewarded with citizenship. That seems to be changing in the past several years, really since about 2016, 17. been harder and harder for immigrants to gain this. It's a topic for a different course, but yeah, again, you can see some of the things we take from Rome there. They'd settled the veterans in the provinces, they'd intermarry with the local population, and this also spread Roman culture. And again, Trajan, Hadrian, all these people are Spanish, from what is today Spain, the Spaniards. So again, increasingly, you don't have to be from Italy to be an emperor. And, increasingly, even Rome itself isn't the most important city. But even then, the borders, we'll talk about this next chapter. The barbarians sort of invaded, but they were also, invited in. They were, people moved across the border. The barbarians and others on the hinterlands worked with the Romans, but we'll see that as we go forward. Roman culture had its biggest inroads in what is Western Europe, really from the Germanic areas over, really from this line over. You can see the main division between Latin and Greek as predominant languages. Why? Well, this area over here, the middle, where we started, the Asia Minor, North Africa, Greece, these cultures are old and been around for a long, long time. And so they weren't as easily to ditch their old culture and become Romans. It really did have impacts here, and we'll see that as we move on in the course. But this is where, and essentially, when you see this in the next chapter, what happens is the Germanic tribes, again, we'll get into it, the barbarians, even the English were Celtics, barbarians. They're going to meld Roman culture with their own cultures, and that is going to essentially create the cultures of Europe today. But that will come later. Emergence of Christianity. Really, you could look through these slides. The video does a great job with it. And you could see, this main concept, especially in bold here, apocalypticism, this hope for a Messiah. So the idea is it wasn't new. It wasn't new when Jesus came around. So this it did play to people, or people. Not play to people, what's the better way to put it? People were receptive to it because this wasn't necessarily a new idea. And you had in the Judea, this area which would be part of Syria and other places today, you also had lots of uprisings against the Romans. Here you can see some of about life and career of Jesus, Jesus in Jerusalem. Again, but big thing about it from here is something I want to push forward. This is in the video too. Why did the Romans eventually kill Jesus? The real reason is they view him as a potential revolutionary or rebel. That's how they saw him. They weren't necessarily afraid of his religion at first. They're afraid of his political message and what it could mean, and because of his moral message of what it could do. That's really how they saw this, and that's the biggest real reason why they saw him as a threat. And so did the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They really saw Jesus as a threat to their control over Judaism. And so, obviously Jesus was Jewish, and they saw him as a new sort of leader there. And again, you can see the video of all that there. And this is, take a look at all that. Paul Tarsus, another most important of these people we really learn about here, the second founder of Christianity. He's the one that really spreads the message of if you accept Jesus, you'll gain salvation. He is able to travel throughout the Roman Empire because of the Roman roads, because of their, he's able to send letters everywhere. Again, the notes, the video, the book does a great job on that part. It's an early depiction of him. You can see how far Paul goes to spread on his missionary activities there. Judaism was a legal religion. Christianity new. The Romans originally viewed it as another mystery cult, right? You had all these other secretive religions, or at least that's the way they saw it. What raised suspicions for the Romans, though, was really that it was open to slaves and women at first. But especially the worship of a single god really made the Christians unable or unwilling to sacrifice to the traditional Roman gods. Now, it's a problem because for public Roman religion, it was about the health of the state, right, protecting the state. Here are the Christians unwilling to do that, and that is really why they were so cracked down on them. Nero's gonna persecute them, and then will many Roman emperors later. I will finish this in the next video.